All right. Hopefully we are live now. Well, YouTube has made this completely complicated. We're starting the stream about 4 minutes late just because of how incredibly complicated they made this. It used to be so much simpler to start a stream in YouTube. I don't understand how a billion-dollar company can redesign a UI for their site and make it so complicated. Horrible. We're starting the stream about 4 minutes late just because.
I think they did it because they wanted to do you can do multiple streams at the same time on the same channel, and that's the problem they have. So they have multiple stream keys, so you can control each stream from their own control panel. That's why it's so hard. That's why I need to have different stream keys and all that. It is slightly more complicated than it should be, just because they want to do it more advanced than
it really is
streaming services does.
Because it is such a pain in the rear end as a content creator for me to do all the pre-recorded content I do, because I got to do all the recording and then I got to cut a bunch of stuff out, edit it all together, and then make a thumbnail, and everything you do with making a pre-recorded video takes hours. Like a 15-minute video takes me about 4 hours to do. And so these live streams should just be simple, easy, no work involved. I just hit start streaming and we just sit here and talk. But no, YouTube's got to make it frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm liking Library more and more every day.
But Library doesn't have streaming.
Yeah. Even if it did, can you imagine with the peer-to-peer? It's kind of yeah, it'd be horrible. So, we got Edward.
Hi.
Hey, yeah.
Hi.
Your audio is good. How you doing?
It's fine.
I'm just getting my first cup of coffee in this morning. I did not want to get out of bed this morning. I could have slept a while today. I was being lazy. It is a Sunday though. Kind of need to mow the yard, but I don't know if I'll get around to that today.
It's also a cold Sunday here in Santiago.
I'm sorry. What was that?
It's a bit cold.
Yeah. Not here. It's quite warm already.
Yeah, here as well. Quite warm, but it's already the middle of afternoon, so it's getting nice, more nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be in the 80s, Fahrenheit today, which is about as comfortable as it's going to get until about November. So, I need to enjoy these cool days while they're here.
Yeah.
Because it's about to get very hot.
If I go out to work out, I go out at like 7 in the afternoon, so I don't have to really be in the hot.
No.
Otherwise, I'm.
I was just taking a look at some of what has happened in the last month or so since we did one of these chats. I know that now we're live. Big Pod wanted to talk a little bit about snaps and flat packs and app images. And you said you were saying off camera before we started, my video, I guess, caused a little bit of a ruckus yesterday.
Yeah.
About, people that are complaining about snaps should just not use them and shut the hell up. I don't know. It seems pretty straightforward to me. Like 99% of the people that complain about snaps, and especially snaps on Ubuntu, are not even running Ubuntu. So what are you complaining about? I don't sit around and just bitch about other operating systems that I'm not even using. It's just weird that these people, you got to have better stuff to do. You got to, I don't know. I can't just sit around and.
Partially for them is what should I call it? A principle of a things that Canonical is doing something. It's not really what they like, so they like to bitch about it. Not anymore. They think it's a principle, but in reality, it just makes them look, I don't know, weird.
Well, you mean you don't have to like snaps, you don't have to like Ubuntu or what, but you're not forced to use them. That was the whole point. Just don't use Ubuntu. I don't use Ubuntu on any of my desktops. If you don't like snaps, don't use them. So, hold on just a second, guys.
You hear what he said? No. He hasn't seen a crack that terrible.
All right. So I'm going to mute you there, Richard. And make sure.
Well, I was using Flatpak for a little bit because I'm a contributor into the Fedora community. But I don't have any preference between Snap or Flatpak. This is just another way to package software. So if you like it, use it. If you don't like it, well, use another thing. I was discussing this with a guy in Telegram, and we were talking about the difference between APT, DNF, Joom, or Portage, or anything. And I think, okay, if it makes the work, it resolves dependencies, the int of your package inside your computer, so you can use whatever you want. If you don't like it, use another distro. You don't have to stick here.
And to me, it's the same, really the same problem as like people who were crying about
System D. I already know where you're going.
Not System D, not System D. The GitHub, when Microsoft purchased it, most of those who really cried about it didn't even have serious projects on there.
Right.
I actually I was talking with some guy who did some research on this, and basically about 75 of all projects moved were stuff like dot files, simple scripts, and stuff like that. Basically stuff that really in the big picture don't matter to either Microsoft or before that GitHub or GitLab. Basically projects that are not really important to it. They're important just to the person who manages them.
Well, yeah, they're probably not paying customers. That's what's important to the companies.
Most customers that actually moved were either dot files, some simple scripts that really are just for that person, and maybe some documentation, and that's about it.
Well, that's another. That's a good comparison, though. The whole, I don't like GitHub, so okay, well, move to a different host, and that's what I did. That's what there's so many Git hosts out there. Why would you complain about whatever the hell's going on with GitHub these days? I mean, you're not forced to use it.
And if Git hosts are problematic to you, you can host it yourself.
Right.
It's not that hard. If you just take GitLab's free server and that's it, and you have full GitLab, and you just need a DigitalOcean or any other cloud provider's VM and drop it in there. It's a freaking Docker image.
Yeah.
You basically follow the instruction, copy the command, and it's up and running.
Yeah. I'm going to ask the YouTube chat. You guys hanging out in the YouTube chat this morning. First of all, good morning. Thanks for being with us. Let us know how the audio is, the audio levels here. Can you hear everybody? Because what we are hearing is us talking in Zoom. Obviously, we are not actually hearing the audio directly from YouTube like you guys are.
How's my audio? It's Murray.
It sounds really low here in Zoom.
Yeah. Really low.
Thanks. Is that any better?
Yeah, slightly better.
Yeah, it still needs to come up quite a bit. It's still pretty low.
How's that? I'm okay now, or is it still low?
Sounds the same to me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll muck around.
And yeah, in the chat, why don't you use Jitsi for these? I've thought about going to Jitsi, maybe for the next one.
Actually, we once tried Jitsi.
We did Jitsi on a patrons chat one time,
and we didn't like it that much.
Well, I mean, I've used Jitsi before. Then I didn't care for it. That's why I don't use it.
Yeah.
And Zoom, just the layout of it, capturing everybody's camera is just easier. The video quality seems better on Zoom than most of the other alternatives. That's why I do it, because obviously I'm recording and putting this on YouTube, so definitely, you know, I want to get the best audio and video possible. I don't want to just use a free and open source program, because if, you know, the audio quality is kind of garbage and the video doesn't look good, I mean, who's going to watch it? So the problem with Zoom being proprietary, obviously, would be, you know, if you were worried about privacy concerns. But for what we're doing right now, we're streaming on YouTube. So, well, I don't care if Zoom, if anybody's watching this at Zoom, hi.
Hello, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, DT's audio is fine, but everyone else's audio is low. Let me make sure that my Pulse audio volume controls are right. Okay. I can fix some of that on my end.
It's Murray again. How's my audio?
Sounding better. Sounding better. Still a little low, but it's a lot better than it was.
Okay.
And I have
Now,
I've tried to
how-
yeah, that's better. I've raised your guys the output a little bit in Pulse Audio volume control, so you guys should be a little louder to the YouTube audience.
somehow Zoom logged me in as root instead of Murray this time.
Yeah, that's weird. But you know, I've had that problem too. Sometimes you log in to Zoom and it'll have some weird account name other than like the nickname you chose. It'll I think sometimes it'll pick an email address, like the email address username or something weird. And then you'll have to go in and change it. I think you have to go to their website, zoom.us. When you log in there, you can change all your username and avatar and everything.
Yeah, something like that. I normally just have set it myself, so that way I know it's correct.
All right, so they are still saying you guys are low as far as the volume. I've got you guys a little past 100% as far as in-pulse audio volume control. I don't want to raise that way past 100% because would be afraid that it might be distorted. I got you guys at 105% for the output, just to try to,
Is that an OBS setting?
No, that's Pulse Audio.
Could be an OBS to have sound lowered, you know?
Yeah, I mean, OBS just has a simple, it's capturing my mic and it's capturing your guy, like the desktop audio. It's only two settings in OBS, and both are at 100%. So.
Oh, then.
Yeah. So.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not previewing the stream though, so I don't know how bad it is. I guess I could play a little bit. So I'm actually going to let the stream bleed through here for a second. It's a simple. It's capturing my mic and it's capturing your guy, like the desktop audio. It's only two settings in OBS, and both are at 100%. So.
Oh, then.
Yeah. So.
I don't know.
Just those few seconds there, it sounded like your audio was fine compared to mine there, Big Bud. So I don't know. We're just going to have to go with it. It's a live stream anyway. This isn't polished content. I mainly do these, obviously, just for the community aspect, to hang out with the patrons here on camera. And, of course, anybody that's following me on YouTube that wants to hang out in the YouTube chat. This isn't, professionally produced content, these live streams here. I really don't care as far as if they were posted on YouTube or not. After the fact, nobody really goes back and rewatches a live stream anyway, especially a live stream like this. And it's more kind of an interactive live stream. If you didn't catch it live, you're probably not going to watch it. So, I don't know if you guys feel that way. That's kind of the way I am, though, on a lot of live streams. If I'm not there when it went live, I probably won't watch it.
I might watch it if it's something that's educational or something that I can watch. Like, let's say your normal live streams, I can watch those.
Mm-hmm.
on
I'll watch
repeat.
Big Daddy if I miss an episode or something.
Yeah. I actually do go back and rewatch the Biddles. I don't rewatch like those live streams that Linus Tech Tips does. I can't go back and watch that crap.
I might watch one of his van shows because it's
Yeah,
new, so
you're right.
that's sometimes fun to watch.
And just
The title
quickly,
topic is fun.
yeah, just quickly here. I'm gonna bring this up, even though it's a private message to me, Big Pod. You were asking about me automating, pushing stuff to my website, as far as from my GitLab to my web server with Hugo. It's pretty much already automated. All I do is when somebody does a merge request, I look at the merge request and I click merge. Then I just SSH into my web server, and I have a script sitting on it already. It's a 2-letter script, HD for Hugo deploy. I type HD, boom. It does the git clone, puts everything on. It's seriously like a 30-second process from the time I log into GitLab and view your merge request to it's already done. So
you can even skip that step if you
want.
But
still, I mean, I guess I could automate it to the point where when I merge, it goes ahead and does everything. But it's such a, I mean, typing SSH, and I don't even put the location to my website because I log into it almost every day. I just do the exclamation point SSH because it's always the last SSH command I did. And I'm already there. Then I just hit HD, boom. So it's just a few seconds. But yeah, I mean, it depends on how automated you want to get. But I've got it, a few seconds of my day is not too bad. But I do want to encourage everybody, if you guys haven't been to distrotube.com and checked out the blog, Big Pod has written some blog posts over there. We've also had Ronnie has written some blog posts over there. He's actually pushed 3 or 4 in the last week. And then the guy that really got it started, he's the one actually that he started doing merge requests on my GitLab, and I just went ahead and sure, why not? Now, Klaus, he wrote those first 2 articles. His articles were about Vim. Anyway, good articles by all 3. Go check those out. And that's kind of the whole point of me putting the entire website. I mean, everything on distrotube.com is on GitLab, and the whole point of that was to make things like guest articles possible. I mean, that's why I did it. I don't necessarily need my website public on GitLab, but the whole point is, with a static generated website especially, you guys just do a merge request. If I approve it, it's already on the site. So it just makes publishing stuff easy. All right, and in the chat, yeah, so why Zoom and not Jitsi? Zoom is a better product at this point, but we may do Jitsi. Every time I try Jitsi, it is better. The last time we tried Jitsi was about 6 months ago, and it was a lot better than when I tried it a year ago. And it does seem to get better. I certainly want to use free and open source software where possible. But the fact is, what you're seeing and hearing here in Zoom is better than what you get out of Jitsi. It's also better than you get out of a lot of the other proprietary alternatives. Zoom is a hell of a lot better than Skype. It's 1,000,000 times better than Hangouts ever was. I still don't know why so many streamers used Google Hangouts. Did they not realize how bad? Just the picture quality, everything about Hangouts just.
Yeah.
And Google made it so easy because you could just get into Hangouts and click start streaming and you're live on YouTube. I think that's how so many people got into Hangouts, but it was probably the worst of all the options out there.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we got the audio is fine in the chat. Okay. Well, hopefully it's better. Now, what about Riot? Yeah, I did that video about Riot. I don't hang out and chat. That's not me. I'm not that kind of person. But a lot of you guys that sit around and stuff like Discord, yeah, Riot is a great alternative. it looks and feels just like Discord. Like pretty much everything you can do in Discord, you could do in Riot. Some people mentioned that the Matrix protocol was slow. Like you're in some of those rooms that you'll type a message, have to wait a second or two. You know, there's some, I guess, some latency issues with some of that. But you kind of have to deal with that, especially if you're doing everything encrypted, which is another, I guess, benefit to using something like Riot, is it's much more private than using a proprietary program. Obviously, like Discord, you don't know if everything you're typing is being data mined. You don't know if they're monitoring your voice calls. You don't know if they're monitoring the video calls. You don't know anything. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys tried out Riot, if that's your kind of thing. I mainly showed it because I know so many people use stuff like Discord, and I wanted to present an alternative that seems to be a good alternative the few days I played with it.
Problem is that you didn't really have a control over what you use, since it's more or less what majority uses.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why so many people use things like Discord and like Zoom, is a lot of these people have no choice. You know, if the people on the other end of the call are using that, then you kind of have to.
Yeah.
All right. And it's not
majority uses.
It's not like Riot is a Matrix client, which you don't have to necessarily use Riot to use the Matrix protocol. There's other Matrix protocols, but it's different with something like Discord. Discord is just Discord. You either have it or you don't.
Something like that.
Mm-hmm. But I have tried to log into my IRC channel, at least for a few minutes every day here in the last week. I did notice a lot of people are in the DistroTube IRC channel these days, probably because of that video. Most of them have an M behind their name. I guess they all signed up with Matrix. So most of those people are not really there, probably, because I think on a Matrix, you're always connected.
I think so, yeah. So
where you know, like,
see the old messages.
Yeah, like on the old IRC protocol, you know, you close the IRC client and you come back. It doesn't save all the messages that went by while you weren't there, right? You don't have a log to go back and. Where on Riot, you come back and you can read every message that you missed while you've been gone.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else?
I actually don't really have a choice what I use, since I have to contact my classmates. I have to use
Teams?
Discord for that.
Oh, you're using Discord. Ooh.
Class as our private messaging, we have the Discord channel, but for school stuff like official school stuff, we use Teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for other school stuff with the interest group, multimedia interest group, I use Slack.
Yeah, I figured.
So I use plethora of applications.
I figured Microsoft would really be working the universities, trying to get everybody on Teams with the situation. It seems like something that they would really be going after.
Well, here we have free Office 365. Every student has free Office 365, so that comes included, and that comes from our national research network and group for universities, schools, and like that, all connect through that. So they provide different services, including one of them is Office 365 for free. So I guess they have some sort of contract with Microsoft.
Someone in the chat was asking, do you like Unity 7? Yeah, the Unity desktop environment was good. It's one of the better ones. It's like if I had to use a desktop environment, I could use Unity. Unity made a lot more sense from a UI standpoint than, well, I hate to trash on it because I trash on GNOME so much. But when you compare the kind of thought that Canonical put into designing Unity with what the GNOME team put into GNOME 3, it's almost like GNOME is this hodgepodge mesh of things. They had no idea the direction they were going, and they just ended up with GNOME 3.
As far as I understand, GNOME 3 was always meant to be extensible.
That's not the extensibility part of it that really bothers me.
And that's why it's so bare bones.
Yeah. But
they always meant to be extensible, so always meant to be, you had to add stuff yourself. I like menus and stuff like that. And then along the way, some parts didn't really like that extensibility and wanted to use it like as it is in the first install. But when you see, like, most still think that it's about extensibility and you have to make it yourself.
But when I talk about like the user experience part of it, the things that frustrate me, and I don't use GNOME very often, I go months at a time without taking a look at it, but when I first log into it and try to remember where everything is in GNOME, okay, so you go to the top corner or the bottom corner in Ubuntu, depending on whose GNOME you're using, and you open the dash and you get the full screen dash with all the icons.
Yeah.
And they're huge. And then I have to travel my mouse all over the screen to click if I'm using the mouse to search for something. Now, if you're typing, it doesn't matter.
That's a new way of doing things. So young people more like the big icons.
Well, it makes sense on a touch, small form factor, but on a computer.
Even on computers.
But who's using GNOME on a touch device? That's the problem.
Yeah, but
like 99.9% of the people use. Yeah,
those big buttons, even on computers. So
it's horrible. It's horrible on your wrists. It's horrible on your hands. You should not have to travel all the way to the other side of the screen to manage your virtual workspaces. Why is all that crap on the far right when you enter the dash? And it's hidden. You have to drag it onto the screen, or it's just horrible.
You also have keybinds to use. That's also one.
Well, every desktop environment has key bindings. I do everything with a keyboard, but most people don't. I'm worried about the people that actually use the mouse.
Yeah.
And that's where Unity got a lot of stuff right, is everything was in one spot.
Right.
Yeah. Where Unity, it was all in the top left-hand corner. The menu opened there, all your window decorations were there, the global menu was there, the sidebar launcher, everything started at the top left and went down. And you had very little mouse travel if you used the mouse. But again, if you use the keyboard, it doesn't matter on any of them, But I don't want to trash on GNOME. I'm just saying I wouldn't have designed it that way. I got off on a tangent there. Any of you guys using GNOME for your desktop environment? Other than Big Pod? I knew he was never.
Never.
Okay, I'm currently on Mate, but that's because I installed Ubuntu Mate, but will probably install GNOME as well and customize it myself.
No.
I'm on XFCE, but I'll be migrating to KDE Neon in the future. I have to, because I use Crusader File Manager on Debian 9. Debian 9 has a downgrade, so I can use it on Debian 9. But after that, Crusader's only usable in KDE Neon. If you try to use it outside, it crashes. Remember, you said Dolphin didn't work that well outside of KDE one time. This one doesn't work at all.
Well, Dolphin works outside of KDE. It's just you're going to have to install some dependencies. That's why you never see anybody really installing Dolphin outside of either KDE or LXQt. It's because it's going to bring in some KDE stuff anyway. And if you're running like GNOME or XFCE, you don't want all that on your system. You're probably just going to install a GTK file manager. And there's so many good GTK file managers, Nemo or whatever the new hotness is. What's everybody using these days? I'm sure it's not Nautilus because it's been butchered. PC Man FM's good. Thunar's actually not bad.
I use Nautilus.
Well, on GNOME, it's kind of tied in.
For basic file stuff that I use, file manager, it works great.
Mhm.
Anything that's beyond what a basic file manager does, I'll probably use a terminal and a standard CD and all that.
Yeah. Really, the only
I
thing.
was
Yeah, go ahead.
using BIFM.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like you can do a split and copy from one panel to the other, just like you were inside Beam. So
Right. It makes some more complicated tasks a little easier. The thing with the graphical file managers, the only time I really like pulling those up is obviously sometimes I'll pull them up on videos, sometimes just to demonstrate something, especially if I'm doing kind of like a noob kind of thing. I don't want to do everything in the terminal. I don't want to scare people away. But me personally, sometimes I will bring up PCMan FM if I know I'm going to access some of my mounted drives. I already know they're bookmarked in PCMan FM. I'll just pull that up.
well, I just stopped using Nautilus because of when I lost the ability to split
Mhm.
the window.
Yeah.
They say you can use tabs or whatever, but splits is what the main feature I use in Snap. So I switched to Nemo because I was using Cinnamon at that time. But right now I'm using primarily i3 with BI key binding, so BIFM just do the work for me.
I'm kind of the same way with tabs. Other than, obviously, we all use tabs on web browsers. I never use tabs in a terminal. I never use tabs in a file manager. I've never gotten into that. It's weird to me, tabbing in those programs.
For browsers, it makes sense, but for other things,
Yeah.
I just can't make a sense out of it.
Somebody's asking in the chat, DT, which flavor of Ubuntu do you think did their desktop environment the best? As far as the one that customized their desktop environment the best, probably the main edition, the GNOME edition, looks the best as far as like if you wanted to put it out as a real product, for consumers, yes.
As if you want to put it out as a known for users, that's the one you want to go for.
Now, if we want to talk about some of the other, more community flavors, the other editions, Budgie always looks good. I mean, every time I take a look at the Ubuntu's Budgie edition, I'm not going to say that they do a better Budgie than Solus, but it's a different Budgie, and I like both.
Yeah.
So
Ubuntu Mate does a great job. Martin does quite a great job. That's why I installed it. It always works great, and especially now, last few releases, it's almost bug-free.
Yeah,
even though I encountered a bug myself, when I installed it, they have a bit of a problem, but I'm confident they'll solve it quickly.
Yeah, Joshua in the chat says that Yaru icon theme is amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, the dark one is.
Yeah, I would probably
great.
I'd probably save that icon theme, even though I don't use Ubuntu. I may rip it out and put it on my Arch installs.
I have it on Arch as well. It's actually in AUR.
Oh, is it? Good.
Only icon I don't like in Yaru is the for the Nautilus. It's pretty horrible. It's the only one I don't like. It just doesn't feel right for the whole thing. So I just basically take the folder one and put it on top of it. So it seems right.
Somebody in the chat was mentioning Lumina. Yeah, it's weird. I actually wasn't aware until recently that somebody was trying to create an Ubuntu Lumina edition.
Yeah.
And they want it to be an official flavor of Ubuntu. Like the Lumina desktop, really? That's because even on BSD, like TrueOS, which, was the Lumina desktop BSD, nobody used that thing on that. And it's like, now you're trying to bring it to Linux. We're not going to want it either. I don't know if you guys have ever used Lumina. It's It's not a great experience.
Actually, I remember hearing about it a while ago that there will be Ubuntu Lumina.
Yeah.
I don't know where. I believe something about. Actually, on one of my streams, I believe I heard it.
Yeah. I mean, TrueOS was not shipping Lumina because it was a good desktop environment. They knew it was bad. The reason TrueOS was shipping Lumina is because the folks that created it under the BSD license. So they just wanted to include a desktop environment that wasn't GPL. They wanted to, just.
Yeah.
But it's not good. But, it got me to thinking, if you can create a Ubuntu Lumina edition and get it to actually be an official flavor, then we're not very far away from getting that Xmonad edition we all want, the awesome window manager edition. We can get all that stuff.
I don't think that's gonna be really a thing.
No. Some of those would be easier than others. On a static release distro, I can't imagine. I mean, I have run Xmonad on Ubuntu, so I can imagine, but I didn't have it running, installing it all through the package manager apt. I use the Haskell package manager, Cabal, to install everything. Otherwise, you're not going to get the latest of anything. You're not, because Xmonad updates all the time. I get a new Xmonad release every couple of weeks, it seems, here on Arco. And Haskell's being updated constantly. I'm constantly getting right now I've got 50 updates waiting on me. I bet if I opened a terminal and checked it, 30 of those packages would be Haskell libraries. It's constantly updating. Where on a static release, you wouldn't get any of that stuff. So you'd probably have to go with something like Cabal.
Yeah.
And not everybody likes using those programming language specific package manager. I mean, personally, I don't care to use things like pip and cargo and gem and cabal, but sometimes you have to.
Oh, if Qtile is Python 2 or Python 3.
Oh,
I believe it's Python.
Yeah,
3.
Python 3. Everything that's actively maintained these days should be Python 3 by now.
Python 3, but
usually the only time you have to.
Python 3.
Yeah, the only time you really have to worry about Python 2 these days are dead applications. Because Python 3 has been around for a decade now, hasn't it? Like if you were actively maintaining a project and it was written in Python, you would have moved on to Python 3 by now. It's usually dead projects that are the problem. Because
FSLint, Python 2 doesn't work in Ubuntu 2004. It's a mixture of Bash and Python 2, and it's no longer in the repository. And I tried to use it in an app image, and it says import GTK not found. No. So it's not going to work in it's on its way out, I guess.
Yeah, Python 2 is not in Ubuntu 2004, if that's what's the question. Yeah. Your volume, though, is very, very low again. Like we could just barely make out what you were saying.
Okay.
Go into your audio settings for Zoom and...
That's what I did. I'm doing it again.
Yeah, that's part.
How's it now? Still low?
Better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Yes, it apparently is. Qtile is on Python 3.
Good. Good to know.
3.5 and newer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are we on now? 3.8,
I believe.
9? Is it just 8? I'd have to check on my Arco.
Python 3.
Well, if you're on a rolling release, you can check it.
Yes, Python 3.9 was released.
Yep.
Today.
Was it today? I knew it was getting.
Latest version of was today, but apparently it's like 3.9.0 A5, so maybe 5 releases of it. Testing releases were released, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, quite recently.
That brings up one of my pet peeves. Probably my biggest pet peeve with Linux is the only distro that updates to Python when it's released is Arch. All the other distros are going to be behind.
Yeah.
And it makes it makes developers of Python like Big Pod's life miserable, because in order to get their package out, they have to do it in snaps or app images or they're doing. And I don't see why, if Arch can do it, why the other releases can't do it. Why have Python on a system if it's not kept up to date?
Same reason for Ubuntu, that is because it's stable. So they actually do not update. No, it's actually, that's the point. For example, the Python 3.9 is currently in development release, so it's actually not stable release. So that you won't see on Ubuntu because it's not labeled as stable. It's labeled development release.
Python, in my opinion, every distro should be on Python 3.8 by now. Otherwise, why have an interpreter on the system if you can't install packages on it? You should be able to go in and do pip install duplicate. It's about 10 megabytes on any system, but you have to package it with a 200 megabyte runtime to get it to work universally.
Yeah,
and that's the problem. And that I don't see why distros, they can't get their act together and find out a way to get.
It's not that easy to just get their act together. It's all about how they cycle their system. So Ubuntu, for example, has a 6-month cycle, something like that. So every once in a while, because it goes, they freeze packages, and generally they don't upgrade those packages much to maintain certain level of stability.
Hey,
that is,
Murray, your volume's still really low. I just wanted to let you know.
I'm not exactly, let's say, I'm not exactly happy about that, but it is what it is. Yeah. That way, you remain pretty much stable if you go for different. So, for example, enterprises won't upgrade their software for years if they don't need to. And that's the point of it all.
Well, on a stable release, on a static release distro.
Yeah, static stable release.
This is why you run rolling.
Static.
Man, this is why you run rolling release distro, especially if you're a developer. You're probably on a rolling release distro anyway.
Yeah.
Because you would just be fighting a losing battle being on a static, especially if you were running.
You need to have edge libraries, so you can actually then. It's better developing down than up.
Right. But it's one of those things, if this kind of stuff matters to you, you're probably not running something like Ubuntu or Debian. You're probably on Arch or Gentoo.
Those kind of things aren't exactly solvable easily. So that's why we have universal package managers.
Right.
Because that way, and containerization, because that way we can have best of both worlds.
Well, yeah, I guess if you package everything as a snap, then you don't have to worry about what version of that programming language shipped, because it's all bundled in the snap or the Flatpak.
Yeah.
But then people are going to complain that package is bloated, Big Pod, because it has all the dependency.
Everything has pluses and minuses.
Right.
Again, nothing is perfect. We should all remember that. We're not perfect. Packages we create are not perfect.
And the people that complain about snaps and Flatpaks and app images being bloated because they ship with the dependencies, they have to realize that a lot of the software too, these programs that are not in your repositories. Have you ever built a package from source, especially on a stable distribution like Debian, an old and crusty distribution, and you're trying to build something that's brand new on Debian, and then you realize it's got 50 dependencies. None of those dependencies are in the repo either. Then you got to build all those from source, and it's this nightmare process where you spend hours.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason snaps and Flatpaks exist.
Great example of this is actually Chromium and why it's packaged as Snap. Because if you want to have latest versions of Chromium, because you want to have secure browser, and that is really important, you have, for example, 1404. They package it as Snap just because they want to have latest versions of of the browser so they can keep their customers secure, because browser is computer system's biggest vector of attack nowadays, besides email client.
Email's always the the way to get in.
Email client and browser, those are two biggest vectors of attack nowadays. So
yeah, because you don't even really have to hack anybody.
To update it.
Yeah, with the browser and an email, you don't have to hack anybody anymore. You just ask people for their password, and some of them will just give it to you, right?
They give you access themselves. So in email's case, they will open links they don't know, open attachments from people they don't know or they don't trust, and even just open them just because. And in browsers, you have all the different stuff that can cause you problems, and that's why those two things need to be updated as much as possible.
How's my volume now? Is it still low?
That's better. It's weird because sometimes it's fine, and then sometimes it gets back to being almost too low to hear.
Okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'll give it a try. Some people complain about there's 3 types of app images and snaps and flatbacks, and they only want one. But I don't see that. There's an overlap, and you can pick it's better to have a choice, because you can do, if you don't like the snaps requirements, you can do flatbacks, and it's much better. Like, you wouldn't have one type of plane to fly all over the world. You wouldn't use a 787 to fly a local commuter plane. So
well, much of the time there's no choice anyway. Most developers, especially if you're a proprietary software company and you just want to package, you're going to use one format. You're going to pick one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the one. If you want that piece of software, you install. So if they choose app image, but you don't like them, well, you can either use their package or you can not use their package. You can't go to Flatpak and get their software because they didn't package it as one. Typically, most of them are just choose one.
The most funny thing I hear is that why did Canonical create snaps if they could just help Flatpak? Irony here is that snaps were created before Flatpak, like a year before.
Yeah,
so
snaps actually they started working on what became
Why didn't Red Hat help make snaps better? That's
because they're not the same. They're not really the same thing. When Canonical did start what became snap packages before Red Hat invented Flatpaks, but
the first versions were way before.
Yeah,
but Snap as an incarnation of Snap is a year older than Flatpak.
But they were creating snaps mainly for the phone back then when they were trying to do the phone, and for Internet of Things, where now obviously everything shifted to really being for the desktop and for the server. So to say that they were, so people think that snaps and Flatpaks are the same thing. They kind of are filling the same space now, but when they were building them initially, they weren't really. Yeah, and actually, App Image, I believe, started before all of them. Right? So why didn't they all jump on App Image?
Because App Image isn't that well. Well, you have to be. The whole point of it being just a file is somewhat people find it somewhat bad, especially since there is no central repository or list repository. It creates somewhat of a trust issue for some people.
Because there is a repository for it
nowadays, but the most app images you get from the developer site,
right?
Which creates basically the same problem Windows program installations have. You get it from a random site or a developer site, and that's it. So can you trust it? Can you ultimately trust it? And in theory, you can't.
And you could trust it as much as Flatpaks, can't you?
Yeah, you can trust Flatpaks a tad bit more.
You can trust them as much as the AUR, which is another one. People will tell you the AUR is insecure. I don't know anybody that uses Arch or an Arch-based distribution that doesn't use the AUR. But people that don't use Arch will tell you how much the AUR is insecure and it's evil. You shouldn't use it. But when you're on Arch, I promise you, you're using the AUR.
I use it on inspiration. I normally don't install packages directly from AR. I probably build them myself. I use them as just inspiration to create the package build file myself.
And people that say snaps and flatpaks and app images, they just need to merge and we only need one. Where are these people when it comes to things like Pac-Man and apt and DNF? Yeah. Do all these need to go away? We should just standardize on one package manager. No, I don't hear people.
Which one?
Yeah, which one? Right. If you ask the Gentoo guys, we're all going to be emerging. So
yeah, if you ask me, you should all be doing Pac-Man.
Yeah, it's. I think some people think it's a duplication of effort when a lot of this really isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get to the heart, it's not necessarily the package managers that would be a duplication of effort. Having different package formats, like everybody using Deb in this group of distros, everybody using RPM in this group of distros, I guess you could say that's an unneeded duplication of effort, because if everybody just used Debs, you just make a Deb and it works everywhere. But that's unrealistic.
But then it's not that much of a problem, because it isn't like it's like 50 different or 100 different package formats. It's, I don't know, it's if you have 20 package formats.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, getting back to the snaps and flatpaks, the people that ask why do they even exist, and the whole problem with Debs and RPMs and things like that, that's the reason they exist, is because before, if I was a proprietary company, so I'm Microsoft and I want to put Skype out for Linux, well, I'd have to make a Deb for the Ubuntu guys. I might have to make a different Deb for the Debian guys. I got to make a RPM for Fedora. Then I got to make, maybe I just make a tarball for everybody else. Well, you know what? Now with snaps and flatpaks and app images, I pick one of those. They should work on every Linux distribution.
And they do, and that's it. But all times there's really two competitors, and right now that's Flatpak and Snap.
Well, they're the ones that have corporations behind.
Yeah,
right.
And that's mainly you will see either Flatpak or Snap. You won't see that much of app images.
Well, I don't know.
Very specific programs.
The Linux community loves the underdog, the non-corporate product. Right. So you will see people that push app image. Unfortunately, without money behind it, it may not go as far.
Yeah.
I've taught myself how to create app images over the last several months. I use it 3 different ways, 2 of which you wouldn't use with flatpaks or snaps, and you wouldn't use to deploy to a central repository. You use it for myself to deploy packages from one computer to another. I have 4 computers on my system. So I create an app image on one, and then in the future, all I have to do is copy the app image over to the other machines, and they work perfectly. So there is a difference between them.
No.
And you wouldn't use one for everything.
Mm-hmm. And one of the benefits with these package formats too, that a lot of people, new Linux users, may not understand, is exactly what you're talking about, is how easy it would be just to package your own software in one of these formats, not to publish on the Snap Store or FlatHub or anything like that. You just keep it for yourself, your own package or whatever. You can sideload it. You can take it with you to a different machine.
I have my own Arch repository on my own server, just for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Create NU shell. I put that in an app image.
Again, you're really low.
I could barely make that out. Something about the new shell, which is great.
Yeah, as an app image.
Yep. Okay. Great.
Okay, so I don't know. I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on here, but I'll keep trying.
And there's a little static too coming through. So that's
how close are you to the microphone?
I'm about 2 feet.
Huh.
And it's worked before in past sessions here. I don't know why it's not working now.
Probably a pulse audio. Have you checked out pulse audio volume control? Make sure all the levels are at 100% in it, because sometimes pulse audio will change the levels on you without you ever.
Yeah, what I think I'm gonna do is reboot my computer and go over the settings and check things out. If it works, I'll come back. If
Yeah,
it doesn't,
we're gonna be here another hour.
yeah. Okay, so see you later.
All right. And hopefully he'll get his audio situated. We've got a little bit of an echo.
And that's from him. And now he's gone.
Okay. Yeah. I guess he had taken out his earbuds. All right. Yeah, app image, Flatpak, snap. No, thank you. Somebody in the chat. Yeah, you don't have to use them. That's the great thing about it. It's like you either use them or you don't. I've never understood the people that say they're forced to use something, and that's what really bugged me about the snap thing. I'm forced to use snaps. Nobody's forcing you to use anything. You chose to use that thing. You may not like that you chose to use it, but you chose to use it. Nobody forced you. It's the same thing with the System D people. People talk to, I'm forced to use System D because everybody's using System D. No, everybody's not using System D. There's distros that would let you run SysV or OpenRC. You just didn't install them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never understood what was a big problem against System D. I know. I know it's trying to do a lot of things instead of only one thing, like it's supposed to be the Unix philosophy.
That's the problem with it.
That's the problem. People don't like it because it's not by Unix philosophy.
Well, the problem is
the second problem is created by the guy, I believe it's Leonard Pottering.
Leonard,
yeah. Leonard. Yeah.
And they don't like him, so they don't like Snapd. That's System D. It's the same like with Snap. They don't like Canonical. They don't like Snap. The end.
Well, System D, some of the legit criticisms with System D is that it's millions and millions and millions of lines of code for an init system. You know, some of the smaller init systems are just a few thousand lines of code. What's all this code doing? Nobody could ever audit it.
Technically not just init systems.
Well, that's the problem. Now it's a network manager. Now it's a network manager. Now it's, getting all this.
Its functions is init systems. So technically it's not just an init system.
Now you got System D timers. Now you got its own bootloader. And you know what? Grub was working. Cron jobs were working. Your network managers were working. You don't need System D to reinvent all this stuff. We just needed an init system. That's the criticism with System D, is it's trying to do way more than what an init should do. And some of the criticisms, I don't mind it doing some of that other stuff. Like if you want to do a bootloader and a network manager and your own System D timers and things like that, if they work, great. Problem is, they don't work that great. Most people still use Grub, right? There's a reason System D, the bootloader, is not good. System D timers, nobody's using it. Everybody still uses cron jobs because they're simple and they work.
System D boot is completely different project, really. Yeah. It's not like Grub where you have selection. You just set one and that's what it'll boot. It's more for like the single boot systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's the big difference, and that's why many don't use it, and because many distros don't use it because they just don't select it.
Now, all that stuff I just mentioned about all the things that are packaged into System D that it doesn't do well, you're not using any of that stuff unless you chose to anyway. So well, you're not using the System D bootloader. You're probably not using System D timers unless you already knew what the hell they were and how to set them up. But it's the fact that it's such a massive program installed on your system that you're not even using 1% of the functionality that's built into it. Probably will never use most of that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see what's going on in the YouTube. Yeah, System D does what it needs to, and I prefer how to control it. Well, that's the thing with System D. The benefit of System D is, just the commands for controlling everything with systemd are pretty straightforward and simple. From an end user, a basic desktop end user, yeah, systemd is pretty straightforward. As far as anybody that does any kind of system administration, I don't know. I'm not in that line of work, but a lot of people that are sysadmins tell me that yeah, they love systemd. They really do.
Yeah.
They much prefer it to sysv.
Well, honestly, as sysadmin, I maintain like 6,000 machines from a big retail company here, and the machines that are running anything real related over 6, 7 are easier to maintain because they run systemd.
Yeah.
All that are below 6 or 4 or 5 or 4 are just a headache.
Yeah. Systemd is excellent for such stuff. And it actually does shut down it properly and sends proper messages to the programs that is shutting down. And because of that, you don't lose data. Like on some that they do it like immediate shutdown. They just don't. Programs don't have time to shut down properly, and which can cause a hell of a lot of problems.
Yeah, and for me, I found that on distributions where I can install different init systems, systemd always boots faster. I've never not had that be the case. Like if you've done Gentoo, I know Big Pod, you've done both systemd and OpenRC. Have you noticed systemd typically just boots a hell of a lot faster than it really does? Yeah.
How's my audio now? Still low?
Yes.
Still a little low, but it's better.
Okay, let me try it. Grand adventure here. At some point, I would like to talk about Manjaro Architect. I've been using it for a week with success.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Big Pod would love to hear about Manjaro Architect because he's a huge fan of it.
Me too. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting to have ButterFS and Snapper usable with Manjaro, and it's already there in Architect. So I've managed to install it. I'm taking snapshots now on Manjaro, and you can dual boot with it. It has an option to select Grub or Grub with OS Prober. And with Grub with OS Prober, you can multi-boot Arch. I have my Grub menu comes up, and it's got all 3 systems on it on the login screen. And it's good. It's really good. I had one glitch with it. When you install it, it comes into a root prompt, and you enter setup, and you'll get the dialog boxes. And there's one dialog box to select the mirrors, and that didn't work properly for me. It took a couple of minutes. I selected United States, and then it crashed later on because the mirror wasn't good. So before you do the setup, you can go in, and there's a way to use Pacman to select a local repository. I selected Canada. You do that first. I had to Google it. You do that first, and then you can go through your setup. After that, everything in the setup just works perfectly. I needed to learn. There's a website called for BSPWN, and start installing that on Architect, and that gives you a step-by-step process. And I needed that to get going. But if you do it after you do it 2 or 3 times, it comes naturally to you. And if you make a mistake, you forget to add a root user. When you go to say done, it will tell you the root user isn't there and let you go back and fix it. So it's really, really good, and I highly recommend that to anybody.
Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I actually have not done the. Oh, guys, my audio messed up.
Oh, it's Murray.
Let me see. I moved. Okay, that was yeah. Hey Murray, you've got some crazy static.
Crunchy sound. It's probably something with your mic.
Yeah, it could be a short or something. Yeah.
I think I had the volume set up too loud. Is it gone now? The static?
No, now you're really
No, but
low
you're
and the
also
static
low.
is still there. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to abandon. Sorry, guys.
Just quickly, I'm going to go back to the chat for a second. Somebody was asking how I feel about Void's approach to architecture. As far as, are you talking about the package manager or just the overall distribution? Obviously, Void does things a little differently than most Linux distributions. They are much more BSD in their approach. For example, instead of the glibc using MUSL, and aren't they doing Libre SSH instead of Open SSH? I swap out a lot of stuff that you would typically find in things like an Open BSD rather than a Linux distribution. They're much more suckless, which could be a bonus for those of you, like we talked about the Unix philosophy way of doing things. Void tries to do the Unix philosophy for everything, like if they can get away with it. And you have the package manager is good. I believe it allows you to build things from source if you prefer. There's also binary packages, so you got some options there. The repositories for Void are okay. Like you can find most of the software in Void. They're not bad. Now you're still going to miss the AUR. There's going to be some stuff if you're used to Arch, that's not going to be there. You may have to build some stuff from source. But yeah, I like Void. I've thought about installing Void on my main production machine at some point and living in it.
I'm going to give it a try to Void because it's the only. There is a project that is managing to install Linux directly on all tablets.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Samsung Galaxy Tab P7000, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's like the first one that was 10.1 inch. And the only option I have is to install this software that is mini Void distribution. I was going to mention that I found interesting that Manjaro is the only distribution that I know that is shipping directly with Tiling window managers instead of VEs.
It said Manjaro was. What about the tiling window managers that had the?
It is the only distribution that I know that is shipping directly with Tiling window manager instead of this
desktop environments. Yeah.
Arca does that as well with Manjaro. They're community edition, so they are community supported, while the 3Ds are official by Manjaro team.
Mm.
So they're technically they have releases of window managers, but Arca does that. Like, how many are there now?
They have more than 20 ISOs now. I think now that they're doing JWM, they just put out a new JWM. It's like 23 ISOs or something crazy.
16 different environments. Something
yeah,
like that.
It's
crazy. Plus they have minimal ISOs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I'm stealing a little bit of Manjaro because I want to make the i3 spin for Fedora.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking some of the configs I installed in a virtual machine to check how they make everything work.
Yeah.
Because I did a try with a basic install of the everything image from Fedora that it just install a bash and the network configuration and everything. You build it from there. But I have some issues when I run i3 because I have a terminal that I cannot close because it closed the whole environment.
That's weird. I don't.
Yeah, but this I need to make sure what is failing there.
Well, it's going to be a config issue, but yeah, I don't know why it would close. Sure. So you're hitting a key binding, thinking you're closing the terminal, but is it just killing the window manager? Is it kicking you back out to login manager?
Yes.
Yeah,
and that terminal is running like a log. Everything you did.
Make sure there's not a conflicting key binding. Make sure you don't also have the key binding to kill the window manager set to the key binding to kill the windows with focus. Because if you have them set to the same key binding, then one may be overriding the other. Make sure everything has a different key binding.
Yeah, thank you. I would check that.
And on some tiling window managers, especially ones that are written in programming languages like Qtile being in Python or Xmonad in Haskell, if you actually set a key binding to the same key binding for different commands, it won't even let you do that. It'll throw up an error and it'll crash the window manager. It's like, no, we're not letting you do that.
Yeah.
Arco Linux has 19 different ISOs. That's 19 different separate ISOs. Then plus of that, they have minimal ISOs on top of all of those. Plus they do LTS ISOs as well. So
had
so many ISOs.
Had somebody in the private chat a minute ago was asking, and I know this is kind of annoying if you use Xmonad, because I mentioned that updates all the time. Xmonad's constantly getting updates, and Haskell is constantly getting updated. That's the problem. So Haskell is always pushing out new updates, and when it does, you have to recompile Xmonad. Well, a lot of people hate that because if you do an update and then try to log into Xmonad without recompiling, it just crashes and kicks you back to the login manager. The way to get around that is set up a script. So every time you do a sudo pacman syu or whatever distribution you're on, make sure it runs xmonad -- recompile right after that. Just on the off chance that you had an update. That way it just rebuilds Xmonad for you every time. That's what the Arco guys are doing, I believe, in their Xmonad edition.
You can do like a script that automatically, after you update some packages, that automatically runs.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could put Xmonad to recompile in the exinit RC. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing, but there's many ways to get around that to where
normally what I would do if I update with pacman, I would just start a pacman. I don't know what it's called, but automatically after pacman does update of specific packages, it automatically triggers a script, and that script I would do is
just
refresh of the compile.
Yeah. But I would agree, it is annoying. I actually don't have anything like that on my system, even though I use Xmonad all the time. I've just gotten into the habit over the years. When I see a Haskell package updating, I immediately recompile Xmonad as soon as I'm done with the update. I just know that. I also have a bunch of other window managers on my system, so if I try to log into Xmonad and it crashes me back to Light DM, well, I just log into Awesome or DWM or whatever, recompile Xmonad, log back out, and log back into Xmonad if that's really what I wanted to get into. So.
I was trying a tiling window manager the last week that it has a kind of a weird name, something like Herb. That it was kind of easy to configure, but the thing that really tells me that it was very interesting is that the configurations was running a runtime. I mean, you make a config change and it takes effect immediately. You don't have to reload the configuration.
Yeah, Herbsluft is a good window manager. I hadn't played with it that much. It is on my system. I don't log into it that often, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I liked it better than I liked i3. As far as, some of the manual tiling window managers, i3, BSPWM, Herbsluft, they're kind of similar. I think I liked BSPWM the best out of those three, though. If I was going to group them kind of together since they're similar.
Well, like I say, I'm using i3 for a long time now. I think it counts like 3-4 years almost, and I've tried like 4 or 5 different window managers, but I don't know, I always come back to i3. It has something that really helps me with my workflow. I don't know what it is, even when I know that I'm losing a little bit of a screen with the tab over.
Well, you don't necessarily have to use that layout, but if you like using that layout,
yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, the great thing with window managers, you can configure them to do anything you want to do with them, all of them. So I can make any of them look exactly like the other if I want to spend some time with it. The only thing that's a real difference, if you're on a multi-head system, so if you got more than one monitor, there is some differences. There's some real differences between all the tiling window managers. The way they handle workspaces is a little weird. It always throws people off in a big way. If they have like a 3-monitor system and you install Xmonad or Qtile, because they handle multi-monitors the same way. If you've never seen this in action, where each monitor is its own workspace, and when you switch workspaces, if they're both on a monitor, they swap places. It's freaky. Like, it's because you've never used anything like that in any desktop environment or window manager other than, Xmonad and Qtile are the only ones. Spectre WM does it as well.
Well,
and it takes some getting used to.
I think i3 did really good. It's just another workspace.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any problem with that.
Right. Yeah,
I think my main problem with that is I don't know why there is a de facto standard to make the extra monitor or the plus monitor in the right of the screen. Like, I don't use it in the right, I use it in the left. So I always have to configure it manually.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just something i3 does, or...
No, I mean, every desktop manager, if you put an HDMI alive, you always have your screen on the right. Even if you're
standard
using
is that
KDE.
most new screens are on the right, but
you could script that to where
you can change
I make it on i3. It's just one X render line in i3. It's really easy. And because I work because I don't have any UDEF rule to in i3 to the monitor, I just have to plug out, make the X render to say I have only one my laptop monitor, go to a meeting and then come back and then plug in again and then they run the script again. I need to set that a rule to that, but manually works. It's just one key, 2 keys, and then enter 3 keys to make the configuration again. So. I want to mention something. There was a big effort with Ubuntu, with Dell, to ship Linux desktop machines, Linux laptop machines, honestly.
Yeah.
And now people was waiting for a real desktop because the IBM thing. But now the big news in the Red Hat Summit that will be happening this week is that Lenovo is shipping with Fedora. That was very interesting for me. I was really waiting for a real desktop. I don't know, because the fast-paced release that the Fedora uses is not normal to laptop users, to new users. I mean, a release each 6 months is really, really fast. The thing that make that work on Ubuntu Adele was because they have LTS releases, not their normal releases.
Yeah. Most use LTS, especially because targets for those laptops are companies. That would be LTS is a no-brainer. So 4 years of support is a no-brainer, not 6-month release cycle. And I don't know how much more months of support that Fedora does, since Fedora is quickly evolving and all that stuff. That would be more of a reign of if they would do a Red Hat Linux, I would understand, but not Fedora.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the YouTube chat. I'm looking at the YouTube chat here, and Peter in the chat was saying he has a problem with BSPWM because there's no built-in way to auto-hide whatever panel you use. Because BSPWM doesn't come with a panel. You install a third-party panel. Probably how I would handle that if I needed a panel to go away sometimes is just set a key binding. So if you use polybar, set a key binding to kill all polybar, and set a key binding to bring it back when you need it. It's probably... I don't know, it may still leave a gap around your windows, though, if that's the problem, if you want the extra space. But maybe after you kill polybar, restarting BSPWM maybe would fix that issue. I don't know. I'd have to play with it. But that sounds like a problem that is fixable. All right. What were you saying, Chuck? Go ahead.
I wasn't sure if you could actually hear me, guys. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I just had to get this thing work with Bluetooth because it only has one adapter. I've been running Linux for a long time. Started back before Slackware started, basically, or before it became used by a lot of people. But I've been an engineer working at enterprise for too long and don't have a whole lot of trial time. So I love Arch Linux. My only big Linux machine I have at home, I bought a System 76 thinking that it was going to be standard hardware for Linux. Arch, I love the lightweightness. I love being able to pick what I want, but I can't get a lot of hardware working without spending a great deal of time of hacking away at their drivers. And I found that kind of perplexing. It works with Ubuntu. It works with some BSD variants, but Arch is not all that working too well, but especially I think because of the lovely folks over at the Papa West team.
No.
What does it have inside? What kind of hardware does it have inside?
It's an Intel Wi-Fi. I don't think it doesn't.
Those should work great.
It should. I agree with you.
It should work by kernel.
Yeah. Certain versions of certain Arch distros did work. There's supposedly there's an AUR for Papa West, not Papa West, sorry, System 76 drivers. Doesn't work. I mean, it's fine. I plug in a Ethernet in the side of it. I get that working. Sound does work. All that fun stuff. I don't want to digress on the chats here, but listen, I know how to do a lot of things. If I had more time to hack away, if I wasn't working 15 hours a day because of the lovely COVID and all that, I'd go back to hacking like I did in my younger days. But you know, who has time these days? But you get a great channel here, DT. I just started contributing. I like watching your videos, and thanks for all the stuff you do.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, the problem with a really minimal distribution like Arch, obviously they're not going to install a lot of, especially proprietary drivers for a bunch of equipment, the way something like Ubuntu would do, for example, like out of the box. Yeah, everything's going to work for you. Yeah, you're going to have to go find the drivers in the repos, install the right driver, especially if it's got multiple drivers, right?
No, it's funny, man. No, it's not you guys. I mean, I've gone off. I've got the ones that work. I look at the drivers and say, okay, it's this driver. I go and install it on the Arch, and it's just I have to hack away. It's just I'll have to find a Saturday where I don't have to take care of my grandson and hack away at this. But it's a lot of fun. I love i3. Xmonad, like you said, the Haskell things are sort of a pain in the keister. I don't ever like living on the total bleeding edge and automatically hacking Haskell stuff. I have never uninstalled Haskell things to see if I had to back out any weird hacks. But if you guys haven't seen anything, maybe it's worth taking a look at. That's the other thing that makes me paranoid.
Yeah, a lot of people with Xmonad too, that you probably don't have any Haskell programs on your system anyway. So when you install Xmonad for the first time, if you don't have any other Haskell programs on your system, it's like a couple hundred packages it's installing, and people freak out. It's, man, this thing is really bloated. Well, yeah, it's got to bring in Haskell. I say most people don't.
In my opinion, it's not really bloated. It's just I understand what these scripting languages behave that way. I used it 6 years ago, and it's the one I was most comfortable with at the time. I don't know. I haven't been watching Tiling Manager. I wish my my work Linux laptops were able to use this type of stuff. But enterprise is a different beast, right? You can't.
Yeah.
But once you could learn what Linux was, you'd be fine using these desktops. But people say, well, I have to install this. I have to use this as a server. I'm like, well, no, you don't. Linux is a kernel. It is not an operating system. So whatever we run servers, it has to be running a particular thing because it has to support the antivirus and the security features. But you can basically install the same packages, right? Containerized and all that fun stuff.
Once you have Haskell on your system too, there are some Haskell programs out there. You guys, if you don't know about these programs, other than Xmonad, which is fantastic, Pandoc, if you guys know what Pandoc is, it's a Haskell program, and it is fantastic. Like, it's amazing for converting document formats and things like that. If you do any kind of PDFs or LaTeX, anything like that, keep Pandoc on your system. Shell check is another program that's written in Haskell. If you guys know Shell check, it checks your bash scripts for errors. It's actually a Haskell program.
Yeah. Cool, man. No, I know I use Pandoc. I was just playing around with VI for the viewing screen in the browser. I just got that working the other while, and Pandoc is something that was recommended for the HTML from Markdown.
I just wanted to throw those programs out there. You sometimes get people ask, it's like, I hear about Haskell, but I don't know of any programs written in Haskell. Does anybody really use it? It's like, have you heard of Pandoc? That's Haskell.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's kind of interesting that they're using Haskell for that. Haskell is really a math language that's used in high performance computing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's big in the financial industry. Don't they use Haskell a lot?
The high frequency trading
and
all that.
Some Lucas in the chat says he just uses the pandoc-bin package, so he doesn't need all the Haskell stuff. Well, even if you install the binary, does it not need Haskell on your system? I would think it would still need
certain libraries.
It would still need some libraries on your system to run.
If it has a runtime, you will still need a runtime.
Yeah.
Depending on how Haskell is made and how it is compiled into a file.
The big package, though, with Haskell, the one that's taking up all the size when you're doing the install and you see the install is kind of big, is the compiler, which is GHC. It's the Haskell compiler. It's kind of big.
That's standard.
Yeah, but it's a compiler. I mean, what's the size of GCC? Have you guys installed that lately?
GCC is horrible to compile. It takes so long. Same with LLVM. One reason I like .NET is it's pre-compiled by Microsoft. I just install the binary and that's it.
I love compiling GCC. It's fantastic. You can start. I can start right now. It's almost noon here. I can come back about 7, 8 o'clock tonight, and it'll still be compiling.
Compiling kernel is faster than GCC.
Yes, it is.
And I can compile the big kernel faster than you can compile GCC. That's the ironic part.
Taking a look at some of what we did on the channel here in the last month. Took a look at the fish shell, which was interesting. People have been asking me about fish, but what got me wanting to try that is a few days before I made that video, Martin Wimpress had mentioned that he uses fish, been using it for years on Ubuntu, and he loves it. It's like the best thing ever, and he was recommending it to anybody that listen. Hey, if you hadn't checked out fish, check out fish. I was like, well, if Martin uses it, he's a smart guy. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And there's some really cool stuff with fish. Unfortunately, it did cause some issues. VIFM. In VIFM, I have a script that previews images with a Python library called Uberzug. If I set fish as my default shell, none of that works. So works fine if bash or ZSH are my default shell, but when fish is the default shell, it says nope, not running it.
Yeah, the things are weird with fish. I mean, things work great out of the box, but the things you did originally with bash or Z shell is kind of confusing for me. So I do like the looks of fish, so it's nice.
Yeah, there's some things about it. Being able to save your fish history from now until the end of time. I mean, that's a cool feature because it will literally remember every command you ever ran, and it would become almost psychic in ability to predict what you're trying to do. Yeah, it's a cool feature. Yeah. But if it breaks my scripts, right?
I'm still trying to figure out how to get that Git tracking you did in fish. I have to go back and look at your Git stuff.
How to get what?
The Git tracking stuff you had working with fish. I was going back and trying to hack away at that for a couple hours one night, and it must have been just out of my mind.
When I did the Oh My Fish installation, all those default prompts, when you change the themes, they all.
Oh, the Oh My! I didn't turn the Oh My on. I was just looking through your configs trying to find it.
No, I did. I didn't create those prompts. Those are just Oh My Fish themes.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah. I use Oh My ZSH, so it's probably the similar stuff. Yeah.
But when you're in a Git repository or a directory that's a Git repository, it knows and it'll tell you all the Git information.
Cool. I love that, man. That's my favorite feature of the whole thing. I'm like, oh crap, I'm in the wrong branch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But well, I tried the new shell several months back on the channel, about 6-7 months ago, I think. And the new shell was interesting. It's like a free and open source PowerShell clone for Linux.
Oh,
And
nice.
and it's kind of neat. Like, it's got some really cool and interesting features to it. And I made the mistake too. You know, it's like, you know what? I'll try to live in the new shell as my primary shell for a few weeks just to try it out. So I opened up a terminal and quickly changed my default shell to the new shell. Logged out, tried to log back into the window manager I was using at the time, which was BSPWM. BSPWM's config, have you noticed, is written as a shell script. So when you change your default shell to something really weird that's not POSIX compliant, like the new shell, BSPWM just won't even load. It just crashes. You try to log in. So I had to immediately...
Probably if I said that it would run automatically in bash, it would probably work correctly. So
well, that's what I had to do. I immediately said, okay, new shell cannot be the default shell on the system. Let's put bash back. So
you can actually just set the specific script to run specific shell.
No.
That's true too. Yeah. That can get it wonky though with bash, I think. Well, bash likes to be the
yeah.
I don't know. It used to be. I used to like bash. Then years ago, it broke all my Bourne shell scripts. That's why I switched to K shell when I was doing Solaris administration, because bash is never ever respecting any previous or the basic Bourne shell scripting and such.
Yeah.
For a shell, it's nice, but not for scripting. I hated it.
Well, having played with the new shell a bit, and here lately in the last couple of weeks with fish a lot, I've come to the conclusion that trying some of the more exotic shells, it's not worth it. You can't set them to your default shell. It just breaks too much stuff. You'd be surprised how many shell scripts are on your system. Not ones you wrote, just like the distribution you're on. It's got the shell scripts everywhere, and it depends on those things. Yeah,
it is set to BNSH, which means it will run default shell, which can be a problem. So you need to set it to beam bash, and then it will run automatic run bash.
Well, I mean, the workaround, I guess one of the workarounds I could do is set my default shell to bash, and then in my bash RC have it immediately load fish.
Yeah.
But that seems like
tacky.
Yeah, it really does. That seems like a really tacky way to do it.
Right. And I really can't do too many hacky things. It drives me nuts. Eventually I switch right back. I'm like, the hell with it.
It's like I couldn't respect myself if I had my fish in my bash RC. I mean, that's like, no, I can't do that.
Nowadays I don't even script anymore. I just make a program and that's it.
No.
Yeah.
Just open C# and write a program, and that program does
C#, the best scripting language ever.
It's not a scripting language, it's a programming language.
You said you scripted it. Wait, you said you script in C. Okay.
No, I said I write programs.
Yeah.
Because once you get a couple of if statements,
yeah,
those scripts it's just too much work for the scripts.
I'm gonna start scripting in Haskell.
There you go.
No, you know, people actually do try that. I've actually seen that on like Haskell forums or people talking about it in the Haskell IRC channel, because there's always a couple thousand people in the Haskell channel on freenode. But why would you script in Haskell? It's like the right tool for the right job, guys. Python, right? Just go. You guys
Python. If you want to do anything more than few ifs, then you should go either to Python or a proper programming language.
Or the people that want to create, what should be simple scripts in C.
Yeah.
It's like, if you can get away with shell scripting, use it. If you can't, go to Python. If you can't get away with it in Python, then go to C. But why are you jumping to C for like straight out of the box, right? Yeah. That's people that take the suckless crowd too seriously.
Yeah.
The suckless guy said everything should be in C, so everything's got to be in C. No.
Yeah.
They take suckless and what's it called, the cat V people too serious.
Mm-hmm.
And these are two groups you shouldn't take serious.
Yeah.
It makes some nice tools, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
I say you should script in Python. Obviously, on a Linux system, scripting in Perl, I guess, would be good. I know nothing about Perl, though.
Oh gosh, please! I wish people. We had so many people that I love Perl. I look in there, it's like these are commands. You're calling Bash. Can you just write the freaking thing in Bash? There's nothing Perl other than.
My problem why I've never bothered to learn Perl. Well, I'm not really a programmer anyway, but like I can open up a Python script and I can tell you what's going on in that Python script. Have you ever tried to read somebody else's Perl script? You have no idea what the hell is going on in that.
I mean, you can write Perl appropriately, but when you have a contest for obfuscating Perl, people take that seriously, and that's why they're all written horribly. The variables are horrible. They never do any proper syntax. And then, if it's written right, it's not that bad, but even still, it's horrible.
Well, Larry Wall wasn't really a programmer either. I mean, he developed that language because the Unix sort at the time was so damn slow that he wanted to use a Q sort. So rather than learn it in C, he just wrote Perl. But he didn't
want to play with awk, right?
Yeah, no. No.
I love awk, man. I've been using awk and edge for years. It's not the cool thing.
You know what? I respect anybody that has ever made a proper script in nothing but awk, because it is.
Try with sed, man. Sed, you can do the same thing, but it's a lot uglier. But it does a lot of cool. If you're worried about playing VI, you can test it in sed before you ever stick it in the Vim script. You don't have to worry about editing the file.
Awk and sed's all you need.
Yeah, in the YouTube chat, Perl seems cool, says a commie, says, but it's a programming language. Basically, it's just awk, sed, and grep built into it.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's all you need for most things. If you can grep, sed, awk, you can do pretty much anything.
Well, the old Solaris, you had to know ed in order to get in, because you didn't even have VIM if you didn't get the latest bin up. That's why I always cringe when I hear people switching bin to user bin. That's completely two different purposes. So you had to know ed just to get Vim up. Or VI up, sorry. I never learned Vim. I used VI for years. But you had to know ed to get into it and get Vim. So that's how I learned how to use ed, because that's where it comes from.
You know, getting back to the 2004 releases this week, I did notice one of the things that bugged me on the Ubuntu 2004s is none of them had Vim installed by default. VI is there, but that's, your ISO was 2 gigs in size or whatever the hell it was. You couldn't install Vim.
People hate it.
Yeah.
People hate it. It's the way of the beast.
Yeah. I don't know anybody that
I'm learning Vim, but the buffers and stuff like that I'm horrible with. I just have to get myself down and relearn it. I know VI very well, and so I can get around very quickly, but I'm a JKL semicolon guy, which is one of the reasons I3 is complicated, or I have to get back and switch my stuff over. I can't stand switching the H to moving that stuff around that way. So not the semicolon, the HJKL.
Yeah. On a new system, if I try to Vim and I get VI instead, then I immediately install Vim. I just don't even fool with VI anymore. Like if I log into any of my web servers, most of them are not going to have Vim installed out of the box. That's the first thing I do. I got to get Vim on the system. That way, if I got to edit something, I get the commands I know. Yeah. I just haven't spent that much time in plain VI to be that comfortable with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still in there, but you're using all the shortcuts.
Right.
The new stuff.
There are some programs that need to be there by default. I mean, when you are administrating servers, you cannot live without anything that allows you to make a disattachable session, like maybe a screen or tmux. Someone needs to be there. I don't know why there are some distributions that don't have any multiplexer. I don't know why a detachable session is called by default, but you need at least a screen or tmux, any of those. Yeah. That's absolutely necessary for a server.
Well, people don't understand it until they've been writing code for a while and they lose the connection. Well, what happens? Well, if you had screen or tmux, you'd be all set.
Well, oddly enough, getting back to Ubuntu, not installing Vim, Ubuntu, at least for years and past years, I know, did actually ship a multiplexer with it, so you give me the terminal multiplexer, but you don't give me Vim.
Right.
I think Nano was the default in Ubuntu, right?
Well, Nano's good. I mean, I'm glad that Nano came about for the people who like that style of thing. Pico used to drive me nuts, because if you edit a file in Pico, your password file is toast. We had like a multi-million line password file for an old ISP I worked for. I don't know why they did this. I didn't do that, but then somebody opened a file in Pico, it trashed the password file, and nobody would save backups. Pico is like the worst. I mean, it was good for Pine, the mail reader, but I used Elm and VI. I just could never stand.
Oh, I was doing some research about text editors on console, and there are some weird stuff. There is one that is called GID, G-I-D.
Yep. Just another editor, I guess they called it. Yeah.
Just another editor. Yeah, something like
That's
that.
what it's called. That was good. It was funny, man. I have no bloody idea where these things came from. Nobody ever adopted them, but yeah, you're right. I remember JED. It's funny.
And the interesting thing of JED that is different, but I mean, it's not different, but it's like they have their own programming language.
Right.
It's made in JED, JED language.
Yeah.
It's not doing in C or Python or anything. It's doing in JED. So the guy is write a programming language and for writing his text editor.
Yep.
Well, that's what the Emacs guys did. Yeah, that's what the Emacs guys do. They created Emacs Lisp so they could create Emacs.
Mr. Stallman, right?
Yeah.
Made millions of dollars writing all this stuff and says now nobody should make money.
Asked me about a text editor called Kakoon, I think is the way it's pronounced. It's with a K. You launch it with K-A-K. CAC.
Oh, God.
Instead of Vim, yeah, it's a 3-letter word. And it is interesting, but I cannot figure out how to use it to save my life. I've read the man page. I've went to their GitHub. People are like, man, I don't see anybody using this text editor. I want to learn it. DT, can you make a video? Well, I know why nobody's made a video on it because I can't figure out how to use the damn thing. So I'm
for 5 minutes straight too, but there's no reason to not do either, right?
Right. It's a weird. It looks like Vim. You'd almost think you were in Vim, but none of the commands, like the verb, noun, syntax, completely been changed. None of your Vim commands really work. They don't have splits, which because of the Unix philosophy, splits are bloat. You actually should just open up a new window. If you want splits, you should have a multiplexer, a terminal multiplexer, because that's the Unix philosophy. It's that kind of program.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need more editors, man. I think we got plenty out there.
Yeah. Yeah, if I spend half an hour reading your documentation, I still can't figure out how to do simple things in your text editor. Yeah, I'm just going to ride this Vim thing out for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah, the text editor, I believe it's pronounced Kakoon. It's a weird name. I'll type it in.
I was looking for it just now. I didn't see it.
Yeah, I found the site. It's kakoon.org. So it wasn't hard to find.
And people are really interested in seeing somebody use this thing. Because people are asking me about it. I see people asking other YouTubers about it. Nobody's made a video on it. I don't think anybody can figure out how to use it. That's
funny.
So you guys, if you're interested in it, it probably isn't what you're looking for.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Moz editor for Kaoune. There you go. Yeah. That's why I was spelling it wrong. Oh my God. TLDR, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't read it, you absolutely not learn how to read it. Write it. That's hilarious.
Like it's got enough of the standard Vim commands, like the navigation keys, they work, but really nothing else. Like once you get to where you're at and you want to change a word or delete a line or anything like that, and you're doing other stuff than what you think you're doing. Wow. And it's got what's really interesting. It's got, you remember Clippy from Microsoft's Office? It's got a Clippy kind of feature in it. Like you start typing a command, but you haven't finished the keyboard yet. A little Clippy box comes up in the window suggesting the commands you're looking for.
Oh, God. I would not like that.
Yeah.
Battery's going to crap with this thing. It's terrible.
Yeah, somebody was asking about Kakoon. What's the selling point, compared to other extensible text editors? I don't know.
Boredom.
Huh?
Boredom.
Yeah. Man, I don't know.
Somebody wanted another.
Yeah. What does it do that you couldn't do in something like Vim or Emacs or any of the big IDEs? probably nothing. But it's like anything else, free and open source software. Somebody wants to create it, they create it.
That's funny. It's VI when you want to use a mouse. I don't even see anything in here on how to. It's all highlighted using a mouse. I don't know why the point of a VI type thing where you want to pull a mouse out.
Yeah, and just plain VI. Yeah, there's not much mouse functionality built in. Actually, in Vim, when you install Vim, unless you spend some time in the Vim RC, the mouse isn't working for you either. Like if I just grab a mouse and put it on my line and click it and think my cursor is going to be there, it's not unless it's my config. Then I've already put something in the Vim RC to handle that.
Yeah. Ever since I learned visual mode, I'm very happy. I can't live without Vim now. Before that, I was all VI, but the visual mode is so much better in Vim.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'll use my mouse actually, like I've got my mouse on my hand right now doing something in OBS. If I had something in Vim open, then I could just move my mouse over and just click the line that I want to start editing. Now for copying and pasting, no, I don't select anything with the mouse because visual mode is just so much easier.
I love it.
Yeah. And then once you get into the substitutions, things like that in command mode, macros are great. If you're really good with regular expressions, it gets to the point where you can do a lot of that stuff without needing to do macros. You can do all that just in the command.
I hardly ever use a macro, but there's times when you're writing a lot of code that I absolutely see where you would. Mm-hmm. But I've been doing regex for years, so that's my bread and butter.
Yeah, somebody in the chat is praising Notepad++.
Well, for Windows, if you're stuck in Windows land and you can't have anything else, I love the looks of Notepad++, man. If you can't have anything else, Notepad++ for Windows is very helpful.
I've heard from enough Linux users, though, to know that this is true. A lot of people install Wine and or VMs of Windows just so they could use Notepad++.
WSL is coming really soon, so can't wait. I mean, I don't like running Windows, but I have to manage them.
Yeah.
So being able to SSH in and run PowerShell to SSH is going to be epic. It takes up a lot of our automation.
Yeah, somebody was mentioning Genie, and Genie has a lot of things. Yeah, Genie is great if you're on Linux and looking for a good plain text editor that's kind of extensible,
That's not bad.
Genie is not bad. I usually install Genie on most of my systems if I want a graphical text editor. But sometimes, I don't feel like pulling up something in Vim or Emacs.
If I want to if I start pulling my hair out, which I don't have much left, but with somebody doing VI, that's one of the editors that go play. You sort of do something like this, and don't let me watch you try to edit files. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, don't install Wine just for Notepad++. Use Notepad QQ. Notepad QQ is okay. It's okay. I've used it a little bit.
Give me just a second so I can hear you guys.
One interesting thing with Notepad QQ, at least on the distributions I've tried it on, you'll start editing a file in it. You'll close Notepad QQ. Maybe you didn't even save the file. Maybe you decided, I don't even want that file. But you come back, open it up, it's still there. Like it's waiting on you until you really decide to close that tab and get rid of it. Which is kind of cool. Like, if a program crashes or maybe you log out of your window manager, you come back, everything's kind of still there. In the chat, Vert is asking me, do I prefer GUI-based file managers or TUI-based file managers? I actually do most everything I can at the command line as far as file management. I have VIFM for a terminal-based file manager installed, and I use it a lot. I have PCManFM for a graphical-based file manager, and I'll open it on occasion. But for 99% of the stuff I do, I just do it all at the command line as far as moving stuff around, copying, deleting, simple file management stuff. I just find the command line a lot easier. I'm usually, by the time I open a terminal and run whatever command I need to run, I'm usually done before I would even load a graphical program up and navigate to where I wanted to go.
The internal one in Vim is actually pretty good now too. It's improved quite a bit.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of 2 videos on how to make it behave much like what do you call the other? What did everybody likes to add-on they add there?
Nerd tree.
Nerd tree. Yeah. So that's cool. Is it NetSH? Or I can't remember that. I know how to use it. I just don't know what the damn thing's called. I think it's NetSH, right?
Yeah. Nerd tree. You know, I mentioned on a video the other day. Nerd tree is nice to look at, but as far as functionality wise, why does it really need to be there? Like the people that add nerd tree to Vim, it's like, why wouldn't you just use the built-in file explorer in Vim?
Yeah, right.
People are like, no, nerd tree is super functional because if you're working in a project, you know, you can see everything in the tree and. Like it's kind of nice to have that open all the time. I guess I could see that, but I
Well, but you can hide the nerd tree.
Yeah, you can. I've got it's actually installed on my Vim. I don't ever really use nerd tree, but I have it toggled to Control N. I think Control N shows me the nerd tree. Control N hides it.
Oh, but actually, I look at video, like I always look at YouTube for that video, and I reseed it all the time. It's a guy in a Vim meetup that was held in New York, like 2003 or something like that. And the guy is make a video do 99% of what you do with plugins.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's really good.
That is an awesome video because he made like 4 or 5 change in the VRC file. He did a lot of stuff.
It's amazing.
The only thing that he did that it never worked for me was the syntax.
Right, I could never figure out how to get that working either. But he's pretty clever.
Yeah, but it's awesome. It's an awesome video.
I'll be honest, I'm lazy and I just use PC, man.
I just want to learn another one, man. There's so many of these things. This is cool, but like I don't want to switch my whole workflow.
Yeah, pretty much.
When it comes to configuring stuff too, I've mentioned this on video with these plugins like browser plugins or configuring things like Vim and Emacs and things like that. I'm one of these people. I really can take the default that you give me of anything and just make it work. Yeah. Most of the time, I'm going to try to figure out the defaults anyway. And some people, I think, have this mindset. They're immediately looking for alternatives, and I'm not one of those. Typically, I want to make the thing work that you just gave me before I start just making major changes to it.
I'll be honest, I'm the same way. I install something, and if it doesn't work out of the box, I'm just going to uninstall and just go back to what I was using. Like
I could have a vimrc that was literally... I could probably get a vimrc 20 lines. Wow. Like there's just a few things I set, expand tab
like 6 things is starting off. I always have to have those.
I'm gonna set the line numbers. I'm gonna set split bottom, split right. Like there's about 20 lines in my vimrc that have to be there. The rest of it you could take away from me, and I'd be okay.
Well, honestly, I have 5 vimrc files.
Mm-hmm.
I use the default empty vimrc file by default.
Mm-hmm.
I just call the vimrc file depending on what I'm going to do. I don't like the using of file type or anything of that.
No.
I just call it manually. It's easier for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I alias the command is I don't know, Python Vim, Vim Python, or Vim PHP, or Vim text file, or whatever.
I mean, I've got several plugins.
For me, it's easier.
I've got several plugins in my vimrc, but I don't need any of them. I seriously could live without all the plugins I've got. Like the syntax highlighting, yeah, it's nice. Do you really need it? I don't know. That would be a tough one to go without, but I could do it. But the other things like Nerd Tree, I got the VIFM plugin installed.
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stock Vim actually does come with some syntax highlighting.
It does, yeah. If you see Python and make the major shells, they're all there.
Yeah.
Well, the syntax highlighting for I don't know, for system administrator, it is not that great because you're almost always editing config files, and you only have color for comments and everything.
Yeah, by default, you get the bash syntax highlighting anyway, right? So it's not.
Yeah,
it's built in. It's the other languages that. Like if you
maybe for Python, you can
Python, you want to bring in some syntax highlighting plugins. Haskell does not have syntax highlighting unless you install a plugin. I don't think Lua has syntax highlighting out of the box with Vim.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Just some that off the top of my head, I know.
At some point, working with the Fedora project, I was looking for a syntax highlighting for ASCII.
Okay.
It was hard to find something that highlight ASCII code.
All right.
I mean, Markdown is easier to find.
Yeah, I love Markdown.
Trip, you are joining us at the end of our stream. How you doing? We don't hear you though. We'll wait for you to get your audio working. While he's getting set up, I got a super chat here in the YouTube chat from Chris. Thanks, DT, for all the creative ideas you put in my head to better use my Mint. Oh, glad I could help. All right. I think Trip's getting it worked out.
Going on.
Yeah, I hear a keyboard too. All right.
Oh, sounds like something fell over.
This is why we do everything live, right?
Sounds like my office.
Yeah. Oh, that's definitely Pulse Audio there.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, you're good now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
I was just saying we were about to kill the stream.
Oh man!
Glad you could join us.
At the worst time.
Yeah, we were going for 2 hours and we're a little over already. But I will give everybody a minute or two to send us out with a last word. If you got anything you want to say, anything you want to plug. So why don't we just go around? Edward, you want to give us a last word, sir?
Yeah, no. Have a happy hacking.
Well said. Chuck, you got anything for us?
Nope. Just keep up the good work, and I keep watching for more content. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Chuck. Joshua, give us some inspirational words to end the stream.
Oh, you want some inspirational words? Well, if you decide that you're going to live the path of pride, just remember you cannot walk it alone because there always has to be somebody you have to trample over.
I like it. All right, Trip. Give us a first and last word, sir.
Wow, I joined the stream way too late. It's not very inspirational.
Well, I saw you in the YouTube chat about an hour ago. Why are you just now getting on camera? Wasn't that you in the chat earlier? I know I saw somebody named Trip.
No, I mean, I typed probably about 5 minutes ago and just got on the...
Must have been another Trip I saw in the chat. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead.
Man. I can say a last word. Give it a try to Fedora 32 that will be shipping next Tuesday.
No, we're all going to try the new Fedora when it comes out, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I'm not. I only finally just installed Arch for the first time after using Debian Stable for the past 3 years.
Yeah, so he's not hopping. He went through the trouble of installing Arch for the first time. He's definitely not hopping right away. All right, Trip.
Oh, 4 years, by the way. Still using Debian Stable.
Nice.
Don't blame me. I got a server over there that's running it. My laptop runs it.
Yeah.
It's just I finally decided to put it on the desktop.
Well,
man.
Well, my last word is I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me on camera. And everybody that was here earlier that didn't stay the whole time. I know Big Pod was on the stream earlier. Richard was here earlier on camera with us. I want to thank everybody that is hanging out in the YouTube chat still. And before I go, I will throw some names on the screen here. You guys watching the YouTube stream. These are all the patrons, all the supporters of the channel. I want to thank each and every one of those ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys. Well, let's wave bye to the YouTube. Bye. Trip code. All right. All right.